Welcome everyone to the game between Divya Deshmukh and Sanan Sjugirov from the round 9 of the FIDE Grand Swiss 2025. We have Divya here as she shakes hands with her opponent. Divya has scored 4 points out of 8, a fantastic 50% score. Her last game was a draw against the world champion Gukesh, 2 wins against 2600 plus opponents. The tournament is going well for her. Meanwhile, Sanan Sjugirov, very strong player from Russia, now represents Hungary, and his highest rating was 2700 plus. Now he's come down to 2627, and in this tournament he has had a decent performance. The last few rounds have been pretty good for him, with win over Goryachkina, draw against Hari Krishna, and draw against Ray Robson. The players are ready. Divya and her opponent always on 57th board. She has a fixed board in this tournament. A handshake and off we begin. E4 played by Divya, and Sanan, let's see the move he plays. He plays the Sicilian. E4 C5. Knight comes out to F3. And knight to c6. So Divya, will she go for the open Sicilian? In this tournament she has faced the Rosolimo and she goes for it. Bishop b5. The same opening that she faced from black side against Gukesh is now being played by her with the white side. g6 played. This is one of the main lines against the Rosolimo and white castles. Bishop comes out to g7, and one plan now is to go c3 d4. Divya goes rook e1, and for black, knight f6 is one of the main lines. There's also e5 as one of the main moves. Sanan chooses e5. He claims space in the center. He's going to get his knight to e7 or f6 and just quickly castle. Divya takes the knight on c6 and d takes on c6, and now she plays pawn to a4. This is slightly lesser played than d3, but the ideas are pretty similar. You play your knight to a3 to c4, put pressure in the center. That's how you continue. Divya does go knight a3, and now Sanan goes knight to f6. He protects the pawn on e5, brings the knight out, and Divya can now go to c4 and attack e5. She does it. Knight to c4 played, and you can defend this with knight to d7. So black plays knight to d7 here, and now pawn to a5, grabbing some more space on the queen side. Black castles, and Divya now plays d3. Rook to d8, and generally a very good idea here is going knight f8 to e6 to d4. Bishop goes to d2 here. Divya is angling for the b4 break. It's actually quite a counterintuitive move, b4, because you are undoubling the black pawns, but also you get counterplay. By the way, bishop c3 is the first new move of the game. You're forcing black to go f6, which is what Sanan does. He plays his pawn to f6, and queen b1, trying to go for b4 break. As we just mentioned, you get some counterplay rolling. Bishop goes to e6, and now knight to d2, defending the knight on c4. Sanan brings his bishop to f7. Again, the same concept, knight e6, knight d4. I like how black has built up his position here. Pawn to b4 by Divya. And now you need to take that. So pawn takes b4. And you can take with the bishop. You can also take with the queen. Both are possible. Divya is thinking about it. She takes with the queen. and her plan is to bring her other rook to b1 and put pressure down the b7 pawn. And Sanan goes queen to c7. So rook b1, e1 or a b1 makes a lot of sense to keep pressure here. But Divya, yeah, she goes rook b1 and she makes her opponent go rook d7 and f4. Wow, look at that powerful move played by Divya Deshmukh. Sanan takes the pawn. And what's Divya's idea? Because it was a pawn sack. Well, she opens up her bishop on this diagonal and she goes e5, an excellent move. If f takes e5, bishop e5 is very good for white. Attacking here, the knight jumps into e5. So Sanan rightly pushes the queen away with c5 first. And Divya goes queen to a4, moving her queen away. And now black needs to play the move f5. It's an important move. And Sanan plays it. So white is a pawn down. e6 is not possible because it's firmly guarded. Knight to d6 does seem like a very interesting idea, and she plays it. Now rook takes b7 is a threat, and queen takes f4 is also hanging. Goes bishop d5. I love this move because you protect here and also activate your bishop on a great diagonal. Queen takes f4 taken. The pawn is taken. The pawn on e5 is controlled. Queen c6 attacking the pawn on g2. And she goes bishop a1. Now this is really hardcore stuff. Bishop takes g2. I'm not so sure like how is Divya going to... She goes queen g3. It's the best move here. Incredible. So she's given up a key pawn in front of her king. But she believes that she can be okay here. Bishop comes to d5. And I believe the next move that she will play is c4. Yes. Hitting the bishop. The bishop has to move away. And so the bishop goes back to f7. And now, how is Divya going to continue? She goes queen f3. A very, very interesting decision. Because queen takes queen, which has been taken. Knight takes queen. And now b7 is hanging. So rook b8 may be possible. But instead he goes knight e6. h4 played. Wow. And h6 by Sanan. And king comes to h2. So you can see Divya is not hurrying into taking this pawn. She's just calmly building her position. Bishop f8 played to attack the knight, and maybe now it's time to chop off that pawn. No, rook g1. Divya is like, if you want to take it, be my guest. Take this. I'm okay. b7 is hanging. Knight is jumping into e5. Sanan goes king h7. I mean, Divya's understanding is immense. Rook takes b7. Finally, she chops the pawn. But it turns out to be not the best possible move there. Rook takes b7, knight takes b7, and now a very good move is bishop e8 to get it to c6. Well, Sanan is playing brilliant chess. Divya is playing inspired chess, but Sanan is making her task as difficult as possible. a6, the bishop comes to c6, attacking the knight here. Also the knight on b7. So Divya goes rook f1. And now pawn to g5. Excellent. Black's position looks like a picture of coordination. d4 by Divya. You know, always when I see Divya, she's doing something. Pawn takes pawn, a mistake. Should have taken bishop takes f3, rook takes f3 and cd4. When after rook f7, bishop g7 and black is doing well, king g6. But instead takes, knight takes, bishop takes. This has happened. And Divya is back in the game because now the f5 pawn is hanging. And she has gotten back the material. f4 played. And black has these strong pawns. Knight a5 attacking the bishop on c6. Bishop goes to e4. and rook e1 played. This attacks the bishop on e4. Now bishop f3 may be a good move. That's what Sanan plays, and he's getting ready to play g4, g3. The pawns are coming down. 40 moves have been completed. Divya comes back to the board and of course goes for the most enterprising move, e6. Bishop e7 played. You could have also played bishop b4 for a double attack, but rook e5 would have saved it. So bishop e7 played, and now Divya takes the pawn. Hg, and you take back. H takes g5. So black once again is doing well. And now how should Divya defend here? Because, oops, king falls down, rook f1, and now g4, crushing move. And Sanan plays it. Well, Sanan's play, apart from that one decision of taking on d4, has been absolutely flawless. And Divya comes back king g1. And now the best move is king g6, with the idea of maybe swinging the rook over here. There's a bishop controlling this. So let's say if you play like rook b1 here, you can go rook d8 and try to come here, push the pawn. But instead he goes bishop h4, and that's a mistake now by Sanan. He doesn't find king g6. And Divya is back in the game. She has her chance here. Sanan had to play this rook king g6 move, and it looked natural. Now knight to b3, fantastic. And goes bishop to g5. It does feel like black has missed the chance. But once again, black is back e7. Divya had to play rook e1. Perhaps that was the best move, e7. And her point is, if you take on e5, then knight d2, attacking here and winning this. But king g6 played. Instead, bishop e2 would have been very strong, as after rook e1 you have f3. But Sanan making couple of inaccurate moves, and now Divya can play rook e1 to get the e pawn rolling. Or she can also think about chopping the a7 pawn. She does it. She takes on a7, and you can't take the bishop because I simply queen. So you must take on e7. Bishop comes back to d4. And now rook takes a6 by Sanan. And a beautiful move by Divya, attacking the knight. And if you move the bishop away, which he does, the f4 pawn is hanging. We are going into a draw now. What a defense by Divya. She didn't give up. She was in trouble for most of the game, but she kept fighting. And now bishop c8, defending the pawn. Knight to f1, getting the knight to g3. And look at that focus from Divya. Rook a3 played. And she plays rook e4. The material is so even. 2 minor pieces for side. 2 rooks, 1 rook each, and 1 pawn. Rook e8. Again, as we always see, Divya making some active moves all the time. Check. And Sanan goes king to f7. And rook comes to e5. Plays the bishop back to d8. Well, hoping for some point that the bishop could come out here. And there is a check, which could be quite deadly. King comes up. Rook to b5. The bishop comes to c6. Divya gives a check. King to d7. And now rook e2 with just 8 seconds on the clock. It's the final move, 59th move. She'll get 15 extra minutes after one more move to be made. Goes bishop c7 and now rook f2. But she blunders with bishop b2. An insanely huge blunder. And look at Sanan there. He knows that it's a big mistake. A check here and it's over. It's over because... And he finds it. And look at Divya. She's going to get 15 extra minutes here, but she's blundered big time. And she knows it's a big mistake because king h2, there is rook h3 checkmate. And this check cannot be blocked. And if you block with the rook, I simply take it. King takes and rook a2 is over. You'll lose another piece. Divya is heartbroken. Move 60. It's such a tough moment for her. You know, she defended like amazingly well. And it's so difficult to come to grips that one move. And you know, she was down to 2 seconds. She puts her glasses on the side. And now starts to think if there's anything that she can do here. But there's nothing. Even if the knight comes in, it's simply chopped off. And she pauses the clock. And she stops it. Writes down the result. And she's resigned the game. The arbiter comes in, looks at the result. Sanan comes in, handshake, and Divya smiles. And Sanan says sorry, and Divya was like, it's okay. What a graceful resignation there by Divya. She took her time to settle down herself and then resigned with a smile. This is the sign of a true champion. Meanwhile, Sanan, one must give it to him. He played well, put the pressure up, but in the end, Divya really defended well. The last move, the 60th move, the dreaded move was a blunder. And well, Divya has to go home a bit heartbroken. But she should be proud of herself for the way she has played in this tournament.